Hey, RetconRaider here. Before we get started today, I'd just like to thank the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible. With special thanks to Revenant, Anerdinwarpaint, Antonio Hernandez, Matthew Holmquist, Nathan Welch Jr., and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3, as we pretty much immediately jump back into things by ruining a group of aspiring Tomb Raiders' day. I suppose this would be what's left of Gimblebox's crew. Unless, of course, we've got more of them lurking around here somewhere. Now, you will notice I have taken the liberty of getting our guys set up ahead of time. I have manually positioned everyone, including Iluthin, who was actually able to go back outside and climb down that hole, though he is now stuck down here, so we'll have to hope this ambush works out. That said, let's not delay the inevitable. We'll have Asterion light up an arrow and get this party started. Yeah, that looks pretty well lit. Shadow, you want to get that door for us? Whoa, okay. That was slightly more effective than I was expecting. It's possible he might have had some sort of secondary explosive in the blast radius. In fact, that was so big, I believe their mage here is cut off from the rest of the battlefield, unless she's willing to tread across what looks to be 10 meters of burning oil. The downside is, I think we're actually going to have to keep Iluthin sidelined for the moment. He can jump pretty far, but I don't think even he can clear this. That aside, there's only 2 left. I think we've got this. Oh yeah, it looks like we can actually go after that last archer without giving the mage line of sight. Well, I mean, unless, again, she wants to walk into that fire. Not quite far enough. Wait, we could have been knocking people out this entire time? That is quite a revelation. Though, to be fair, I don't really think that anyone in our party is the sort to take people alive. Still, I am curious if that is actually well integrated into the game. Might have been fun to try to take Gimblebox or the door guard alive. I'm not sure it would have actually done anything, but it would be interesting to see if the developers actually took that sort of thing into account. Wow, that actually hit Shadowheart pretty hard. I think it's about time for Iluthin to join back in. I was hoping he'd get to go immediately, but it looks like he did have to roll initiative. Nice shot, Lays. Thank you, Shadow. That is slightly more like it. Ah, so I see you've chosen death. So, did that play out the way you thought it would? I'm guessing probably not. Alright, let's regroup, and Shadow is actually pretty badly injured, so we'll have to burn off one of her healing spells. But, I have to say, overall, that actually went pretty well. Not quite as smoothly as I would have liked, but still, nothing we can really complain about. I definitely underestimated the strength of that explosion. I'm actually curious if these guys might have been carrying explosives in their inventory for the excavation, or maybe there was a secondary container of oil or something I just didn't notice when we were doing the initial scouting. Either way, very impressive. Let's hope there's still something left to loot. Oh, look at that. She had 2 bottles of basic poison. If we hadn't taken her down so quickly, she would have actually been able to use that against us. I do find that interesting, the persistence of NPC inventories. A long, drawn-out battle is not only likely to wear on your characters, but it will also ultimately deprive you of potential loot. This guy was actually packing Alchemist's Fire. That's interesting. I wonder if their fighter would have tried throwing a barrel of oil at us if we had actually given him the chance. Ah, right, we still have this guy. Spare shield for Shadowheart. That'll bump her AC back up to a decent amount. And a disarm kit. So they do actually have both thief tools and disarm kits. It feels a bit redundant, but okay. Now this actually marks what I feel is one of the pros and cons of the Larian-made cRPG. It's interesting because all of this dungeon dressing actually does tend to serve a purpose. You can sit in chairs, you can lie in beds, you can light torches or move objects, and you can also store things in anything that looks like a container. The problem being that that leaves you, as the player, with a whole bunch of dungeon dressing that looks like containers, but 90% of it ends up being empty or just containing trivial vendor trash. You don't want to just skip containers because you never know if one's going to have something that is actually worth taking. Oh, yeah, see? That is exactly what I'm talking about. The last, dozen containers we cracked open were empty, and then this one random urn has an ancient scroll in it. Let's have a look at this thing. Though a bloom of mold has leached the ink from most of this scroll, its beginning is still legible. The Sealing Ritual. Our God cares not for petty ritual. There is only the ceiling, and it is vital that we observe it with exacting reverence. On the day of the sealing, a mixture of bone and ash is consecrated. Upon the names of the dead, we spread the offering, imbuing the ink with the essence of death of our god. That is intriguing. No idea what it means, but it is intriguing. Oh, let's get that new shield equipped. I don't think we found anything else worth using, though. Yeah, unfortunately, Shadowheart is not proficient with heavy armor. I mean, we could toss that over to Lae'zel, but that would actually give her less AC because it would cost her dex bonus. I guess that's just a 5th edition thing. Heavy armor deprives you of your dex bonus. That is an interesting way to balance it. Alright, let's check these side rooms.
No lock, no handle. How does it open?
Interesting. That might imply that Gimblebox crew hadn't actually gotten any deeper into the catacombs. Oh geez, we've got like 40 bookshelves in here. You know, most of these are probably empty, so maybe I'll just do a quick cursory search, and then we'll pause before we head down to the next level so I can do a more thorough search off screen. Yeah, I'm assuming that the vast majority of these are going to be empty. So let's just focus on the most conspicuous scenery. Chapel Records, an annal of the dead, listing hundreds of departed souls. Fine dust coats the pages of this weathered book. Beneath the bone-white powder, hundreds of short obituaries are recorded in tiny script. Grobian Tipple, Ilmater, drowning. Yvain Arkinson, Ogma, internal rot. Devrin Stout, Sayun, fever. So name, deity of choice, and method of death. I wonder if there's any relevance to those 3 names being singled out.
You do not recognize the language on the plaque.
That is an interesting, if somewhat generic statue. I think it's the first one we've seen here that's still intact. Oh, yep.
That's curious.
What is? Oh, look at that.
What did that do?
Okay, what did that do? Oh, nice. It looks like that is how you open the door in the other room. Okay. You know, there is some very interesting visual storytelling here. The fact that the door was open and the trunk here in the corner is empty really does seem to imply that they were just starting to loot this room when we burst in and ruined their day. The Unclaimed. The sturdily bound story of a cleric of Shar, whose soul was never claimed from the City of Judgment. That actually sounds really interesting, because, I believe Shadowheart there is a cleric of Shar. In life, her service had been impeccable. Daily did she devote herself to the Lady of Loss. Daily did she free herself from the tyranny of memory. All in time was lost to her. Her relations, her preferences, even her own name. Upon the altar of her devotion placed she the ultimate offering, her emptied mind. And when she died, when she awoke in death and found herself standing in the pale and fated City of Judgment, she waited for the Lady of Loss to retrieve her. 1,000,000 souls and more passed her in colorless gusts, but no hand materialized in her hand. No voice whispered instruction in her ear. No guidance proffered itself from the bleached and barren sky. Time, immaterial time, passed around her like air, coming and going. And still, the goddess did not come for her devotee. Kelimvor pitied her, as much as the Lord of the Dead is able, but could not intervene. The cleric of the Lady of Loss, unclaimed despite her worthiness, might yet have one more lesson to learn. That not of forgetting, but being forgotten. Wow, I really like that. I mean, I will say I don't think it's going to be relevant to anything we discover here, but it does give an interesting glimpse into the machinations of Shar, and I guess by extension, some potential glimpses into what sort of person Shadowheart might be. Okay, I think we're just about ready to proceed. But let's just make sure we're not overlooking anything obvious here. Okay, I think we're good. Oh. Ah, okay. I guess that is how we would have opened that door if we had come from the other direction. Interesting. Alright, so that should lead us to the next level. Let's just review here. This was the entrance. That was the side room where we found the ancient scroll, and the main hall where we fought the bulk of the gang. Got the side bedroom, we've got the cathedral, and yeah, I guess that's everything. Let's hit the pause button real quick. I will go check all of those bookshelves and miscellaneous containers. And I guess I'd better send a few things back to camp too, because we are getting overloaded. We'll be right back. And we are back. Much as we suspected, the majority of the containers that we bypassed were in fact empty. I think all told we found maybe 3 gold pieces worth of random dishware. I mean, we took it, but it's certainly nothing to write home about. I will say, I'm being a bit more particular about making sure we grab every single thing we can possibly sell, because, as with most Larian cRPGs, I don't believe Baldur's Gate 3 is going to actually have a random encounter system. So, unlike, say, Kingmaker, we can't rely on random encounters to make up for gold shortages or XP shortages. Anything we miss is missed forever, which means we might end up being shortchanged or underleveled by the time we hit some of the later challenges. That said, I do think we're doing okay at the moment, and I do anticipate finding much better treasure as we delve even deeper into these catacombs.
Place wasn't built for the living.
Oh yeah. I think it's safe to say that the Gimblebach gang didn't make it this far in. We've got a lot more darkness to deal with down here too, so we're going to want to light candelabras as we go. Nice. A little underwhelming, but a 10-to-1 gold to weight ratio is not bad. Okay, so that leads to another chamber. Let's hold off on that for the moment and finish this one first. I do wish they had assigned some slightly better pricing or more consistent pricing to a lot of these scenery objects. Like the ornate and gilded chests. The descriptions make a big deal about how they're covered with gold paneling and semi-precious stones, and yet, despite that, they're worth 1 gold piece. On Death and Resurrection, a thin and pliable volume, smelling faintly of dust. An excerpt from the ongoing metatext Rebound by Iosefa Elgin, a scholar excommunicated from the Church of Denier for her heretical efforts to reconstruct the metatext, her god's annal of lost and hidden knowledge. Of what value a life? Far too esoteric a topic to warrant any serious critical consideration between these pages, surely. Or so it would seem at first glance. But once we push aside the mysticism and dewy-eyed sentiment so often clouding our assessment, it is clear that across all the spinning planes, each and every life does indeed have a quantifiable value. It is simply that not all are equally valuable. Consider, we already know that the destruction of our material form is not the end. If anything, our souls are more free after death, transcending planar barriers in search of a resting place that best befits our deeds. Beliefs and station in life. But even this assessment is subject to market forces. Lord Kelemvor weighing our souls against how thoroughly we have given them over to other gods, empowering them in turn. There is, of course, an alternate route. Not the end of the path, but the chance to retread it. Clerics across the realm wield the power to return life to any soul deemed worthy or willing enough. It is strange, then, that these so frequently intersect with those deemed wealthy enough, for the components for such a spell are beyond the means of most mortals. I have interviewed those who have made such a return, and in truth have found them to be of the most dull and unimaginative sort that I cannot possibly imagine what it is that they were so eager to return to. If a true assessment of the journey is to be made, then there is simply no replacement for embarking upon it oneself. Perhaps one day, this great volume of learning will make me worthy enough to walk that path, and wealthy enough to return. That is surprisingly fascinating. That is the sort of thing that I sometimes think about when it comes to these high fantasy settings. How do they cope with living in a world where things like even death are basically impermanent? I mean, adventurers themselves often treat death like a minor nuisance once they get past a certain point, especially in later editions where resurrection or raising requires a token fee and leaves no real permanent mark on the person who died. Alright, I think we've been fairly thorough here. We've got chambers on either side, but this door is locked, and the one on the other side wasn't, so let's push for that room next. I do find it interesting that pretty much every statue we're seeing down here seems to be deliberately defaced. And it's definitely not the same statue we saw up above. These have visibly skeletal hands and seem to be holding some sort of gilded list. Maybe a list of the dead based on the books we saw back up top. Oh yeah, speaking of which, it does appear we have wandered right into some sort of grand mausoleum. Can't help but notice that central sarcophagi is very distinctively placed. More clearly, deliberately defaced statues. We're not even seeing the heads that are missing. If they had fallen apart naturally, you'd expect debris.
What's that?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, we have a gas vent right near the suspicious sarcophagi. I'm betting we've got a bunch of those scattered throughout the room. We've also got this one statue that is still intact, but it seems to be a different statue than all the other ones we're seeing. No, the statues directly around the sarcophagi actually all appear to be a warrior, rather than some sort of scribe. It could be that whoever these are supposed to represent is the person interred in that sarcophagi.
The text on the plaque is a mystery to you.
Okay, so first things first, we're going to want to block that gas vent. And yeah, we're going to definitely want to walk the whole room. We've got multiple gas vents.
That's curious. Something over there.
Yep. Looks like they've got them all arranged symmetrically, right around that central sarcophagi. That's definitely very telling. Huh. We've got a button here, too. But I don't think we want to touch that just yet. Let's go ahead and get those blocked off. I've got to say, I am actually really impressed with the level of visual storytelling that Larian has managed to work into a lot of these scenarios. You can interpret some pretty interesting details about the backstory of these rooms just from the way they're arranged or the current state of the furnishings. I really appreciate that. It's a minor thing, but it all fits together, and it validates the player making these connections. There are a lot of games where dungeon dressing is literally just that. It's a minor distraction that means nothing, ultimately. But in this game, a lot of this stuff really does have meaning behind it, even if it is something minor. If something stands out, even slightly, that's because there probably is some hidden meaning behind it. Alright, that's the vents. Let's go ahead and check these side alcoves next.
What's that?
Oh, you have got to be kidding me. I am fairly certain that is some sort of projectile launcher. This whole room is a death trap.
Something over there.
Yeah, looks like we've got 4 or 5 projectile launchers on each side of the room. And notice how they're very particularly placed to be able to fire right between those support pillars. Again, a nice visual cue.
Something over there.
Jeez. I can't imagine that all of these fire projectiles... This is like a level 2 encounter. Maybe the gas is flammable, and these gargoyle heads are designed to ignite it. Then you'd be looking at like 2d6 fire damage, maybe. That wouldn't be too bad, though it would certainly be spectacular. Let's go ahead and start carefully opening these Sarcofa-Guys. Holy moly. That is a great sword. That is an incredible roll on the loot tables, at least for us. We are absolutely going to be giving that to Iluthin. It's basically what I designed him for. Wow, that is a huge stroke of luck. As with the vast majority of the containers in this game, the Sarcofa-Guys use semi-randomized loot tables, so there was no guarantee we would actually find a greatsword in there or anytime soon. Great axe. And a tourmaline ring. Not bad. Alright, now, I have no idea what to do about these gargoyle heads. I don't think we can actually break them or block them. So I think we just need to evac the room entirely, and we'll just have one guy go back in for whatever's in that central Sarcofa-Guys. I guess that'll be Iluthin. He is the only guy with infinite temporary hit points.
It won't move.
That might actually be a shut-off switch for the trap. I guess we'll find out in a second. Here we go. Interesting. A key and the Watcher's Guide. Time has dampened this spear's sheen, but the center glows a faint blue. The magic it exudes feels old, terrible, and divine. The spear was given to its previous owner for his unerring loyalty, even after death. Two-handed spear grants the rush action, and Death's Promise. When the spear misses its target, the wielder's next attack against that target is made with advantage. So essentially, like a built-in True Strike cantrip. That's not terrible. Though that damage is awfully low for a two-handed weapon. I'd almost be tempted to try this thing out, but I don't think it's worth giving up the raw 2d6 damage we get from that greatsword. Also worth noting, though, this does seem to confirm that the statues flanking the Sarcofa-Guys do indeed represent the warrior entombed within. Oh, yep, and we just went into turn-based mode, so something is about to happen. In fact, I'm betting if we hadn't already blocked those vents, the room would currently be flooding with gas. Let's go ahead and try that switch again. Okay, well that definitely did something. But let's head for that door anyway, just in case. And we are no longer in turn-based mode. Okay, so we should be fine. judging from the lack of an insane fusillade of fire and death. I think it's safe to say we have successfully bypassed this absurd trap. I mean, look, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe the trap wouldn't have been that bad. But I do seem to distinctly recall at least a few traps back in Original Sin 2. They could party wipe you in an instant. So, you know what? I am going to err on the side of caution. Looks like we've got an area transition, but we did just find that key. So let's double back and try it on that locked door we passed when we first came in. Man, I really love the presentation in this dungeon. And we're still in early access, too.
Armed scribes. No sign of a struggle.
I wonder what was so subversive about their words that they commanded protection.
More destroyed statues. Yeah, I'm gonna say that looks suspicious. Yep, that is listed as undead. Currently dormant, but I cannot imagine it's going to stay that way. Especially given all the fairly blatant clues we've run into. The books on death and rebirth. The spear with a description that specifically mentions a warrior who is loyal even after death. I think the first thing we need to do is walk the entire room, set up multiple stationary light sources, and make sure these guys are disarmed. If they do come back, we want them stuck fighting barefisted. We've got a warrior down below, but the bulk of these guys look to be scribes. Yeah, and we've got obvious signs that they're spellcasters, so that's a problem. Even disarmed, they could still be dangerous. Okay, we've got another side room, and what actually looks to be another breach into surrounding tunnels. But we'll hold off on that. In fact, we are actually running a bit short on time, so we might have to just finish this main central chamber, and then save those side rooms for next time. Aha! Semi-hidden chest. I mean, not very well hidden, but I could definitely see someone overlooking it.
That's Jurgle, scribe of the dead. I didn't think anyone still worshipped him.
Oh, wow. This is the first intact statue we've actually seen of this guy, though obviously much larger and more prominently placed than the others. Given context, and the scattered corpses, maybe the scribes were worshippers of Jurgle who died trying to protect this statue from being defaced like all the others.
The inscription is in a language unknown to you.
Yeah, big surprise. Okay, let's check these little alcoves in back. Looks like we've got a hollow space behind this wall. How do we get back there?
something over there.
Aha! And that is almost certainly our way in. Oh yeah, we can definitely see stuff in there now too. Okay, so if anything is going to get us stuck into a fight, I think it's going to be messing with that richly adorned sarcophagus. So let's get our brutes positioned to do some scribe smashing before we actually go in there. Let's have Astarion hang back. He can hang out near that button. Now, these guys are pretty well scattered, but I think this is a nice central spot. Unfortunately, I don't think we can actually move corpses, or I'd just stack them like cordwood. Alright, Astarion, let us tempt fate. Push the button.
Oh, hells! Something just woke up!
What? Who could have foreseen such a thing? Corpses rising? In a shrine to a god of the dead? Anyway, looks like we weren't very lucky with our initiative rolls. We've got 2 of these guys going before we do. Though Astarion goes first. But it also looks like the scribes are just tough enough that Astarion has no chance of taking one down with a single shot. So let's have him slow down that fighter. It's not much, but -3 movement might prevent him from being able to engage this turn. Nice. That is the absolute maximum results he could have gotten with that attack. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we gotta take these guys down quick. Though, fortunately, that one went after Iluthin, our only party member with temporary hit points to burn as well as retaliatory strikes. Though I will say that Hellish Rebuke was pretty sad. I think it literally did the minimum damage possible. Such is the nature of RNG. Excellent. That is slightly more like it. Let's push for the guy behind the pews here. I'd like it if we could clear the pews entirely and actually engage this guy. Nice, okay. With any luck, we will strike this guy down when he moves to disengage. Oh, look at that. We can actually reset Hellish Rebuke. Well, that's annoying. Alright. Pushing to the right will put us in range of that fighter, so let's move left instead. See if we can knock this guy down before he gets another turn. Well, so much for that. Nice hit. Oh, shoot. I do not like that. Let's hope they don't have rules for coup de grace in 5th edition. okay, that drops 2 of theirs, but we've lost 1 of ours. That is not ideal. I think we're going to have to get a little more aggressive with Asterion. He is concealed, so I think that means we can go for a sneak attack. Well, that was a hit, but it definitely was not a sneak attack. I am definitely not an expert in 5th edition, though, so I'm sure I just overlooked some qualifier. Are you... Right, I guess Iluthin is sleeping. I will manually switch to Shadowheart. And I guess we will start pushing towards Iluthin. Get him back on his feet. Oh, shoot, I got a little overzealous with the movement there. It is worth noting, there is a movement cost to jumping, and I believe it's about 1/3 of your overall movement, so 3-ish meters. If you move too far and you don't have that much left, it will gray out the option, so you will no longer be able to jump that turn. The actual distance of the jump, however, does appear to be based on your strength, as opposed to whatever movement you expended to jump. Nice. Okay, okay. That does buy Iluthin some extra time. Nice. I guess we might as well go for another action. We are going to be resting soon. And boop. Unboop. Ow. Hey, welcome back, Iluthin. You have a nice nap? Hippity hop. And thus it ends. Huh, looks like Lae'zel has something to say about it too. We'll get her patched, but we have to be very mindful of that puddle of acid.
Take you.
Lae'zel making a beeline for that acid. Let's move to a slightly safer distance.
The corpses are better fighters than many who draw breath in this world. Curious.
Indeed. Victory is sweetest when one's mettle is tested.
Words Drakiith herself might have uttered. You prove yourself a true child of Gith. Let us fill our packs and depart. The dead need no trinkets, but we might make use of them.
I think that is the nicest thing Lae'zel has ever said to me. She definitely didn't say it to my other test characters. Speaking of which, we are actually coming up to the point where, I actually stopped playing my test campaign, so we'll soon be encountering things I have no idea how to approach or handle. Though honestly, even with just these first couple of episodes, I have already seen a lot of things that just didn't come up during my test campaigns. And not to mention, I didn't do any testing with Gith, so pretty much everything that comes up between Iluthin and Lae'zel is entirely new to me. Alright, we are past time, but let's at least have a peek inside that secret room. See what our blood, sweat, and tears have earned us.
A lot of effort to hide one sarcophagus.
The Amulet of Lost Voices. The dead hold no secrets from Jurgel's scriveners of doom. Grants speak with dead. Wow. I was not expecting them to include a spell like that. But I guess they did include beast speech, so it makes sense, I guess. And I mean, even in Divinity Original Sin, I suppose you had the elven cannibalism ability that kind of let you see the memories of the dead. That is another feature. I am very curious to see how well they've integrated it into the campaign. That said, we are past time, so we do need to hit the pause button. At least if I want any hope of getting this video done in a even remotely timely fashion. Given that we just discovered this amulet that lets us talk to the dead right next to this richly adorned sarcophagus of what is clearly the most important person interred here, I think we can see where this is going. So, we will hit the pause button for now and pick up here next time as we play the part of the medium at large and have a chat with the dead. That'll give me some time to get this inventory back in order too. It is an eternal struggle. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Baldur's Gate 3, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the official YouTube channel, the official social media feeds, or the official store pages. As always, links are in the description.